I'm Natasha Kirchuk, and thanks for joining us from our studios in Israel. Coming up in today's newscast, the IDF SEAL shut a bomb-making bookstore. ILTV gets an inside look at how horses are being used to treat combat veterans with post-traumatic stress disorder. And a Hollywood star makes a splash on Israeli television. Stay tuned for the latest news in Israel. The knife-wielding terrorist who stabbed 3 Israelis on Saturday is being praised as a martyr by Palestinians on social media today. The teenage assailant was shot and killed by police in Jerusalem's Old City before he managed to kill anyone.
17-year-old Ahmad Jazal came to the Israeli capital from the West Bank village of Sebastian near Nablus. He took a smiling selfie of himself outside of the Dome of the Rock Mosque shortly before taking out his knife and stabbing 2 Jewish civilians, one of which is 18 and the other 20. The assailant then wounded a policeman who rushed to the scene but stopped the rampage by shooting the terrorist. All of the Israeli victims were taken to the hospital suffering light to moderate wounds. At least 162 Palestinians who have launched stabbing, shooting, or car ramming attacks against Israelis have been killed by security forces since September of 2015. Fortunately, alert security guards in Hebron stopped what could have been another tragedy before it happened on Friday evening. A Palestinian was arrested when he was found concealing a knife near the Tomb of the Patriarchs. In other weekend violence, another Palestinian teenager was shot by Israeli troops while allegedly being caught throwing rocks at Israeli cars near Ramallah. The 15-year-old received medical treatment at the scene before being taken to hospital and placed under arrest. An Israeli border police officer was lightly wounded in a rock-throwing incident nearby earlier that same day.
IDF forces finished a months-long Hamas cell-busting operation late last night after they welded shut a bookstore in Nablus in the West Bank. ILTV's Aaron Porras has more on this story. Aaron, why is the IDF concerned about a bookstore?
Well, the bookstore was being used as a front for a Hamas cell in the West Bank, and inside they were producing powerful explosives and incitement materials, all with the alleged plans of using them for suicide bombings and other killing practices on innocent Israelis. Let's go to my report for the full story.
The cell was shut down in late December of 2016 when the Shin Bet security service arrested its members, who, according to the Shin Bet, were in a state of, quote, high readiness to carry out deadly suicide attacks, end quote. The 20-man cell was allegedly planning to use the explosives and inciting material produced in the bookshop to carry out terror attacks targeting Jerusalem and Haifa. They were also charged with having obtained M16 rifles, in addition to the 15 or so pounds of TATP explosives, intended for use in suicide bombings. In a separate raid the night before, IDF soldiers raided the home of terrorist Ahmad Jazal, who before being shot dead had stabbed 2 young Israeli Jews and a policeman in Jerusalem. These raids and arrests are coming at the heels of dozens more just like it, where Israeli security and police forces find homemade pipe bombs, homemade guns, and even weapons-making facilities. The 3 victims from Jazal's attack received treatment at Jerusalem hospitals and are said to have suffered only light to moderate wounds.
Shocking flashbacks, nightmares, emotional numbness. These are only some of the symptoms that combat soldiers with post-traumatic stress disorder often face on a daily basis. Well, here in Israel, more and more veterans are seeking treatment through an unlikely method: horse therapy.
When you get hurt on the field, the medic and paramedics come and they take care of you immediately, and you get evacuated to hospital. Immediately they take care of the surgery and everything. But my injury wasn't, no one could see it. I couldn't see it. I'm sitting 11 and a half years bleeding in the field, waiting for someone to come and treat me.
This is Karen Chisik. She was a combat medic in the Israeli army and served in the Gaza Strip between 2003 to 2005, which was the height of the Second Intifada.
We had an ambulance that was on call 24/7, and we were called to any situation, any case, from car accidents to shootings to bombs to explosions. About 9 or 10 months after I was discharged, my mom was the first one that noticed, came to me and said that I scream in my sleep. She noticed that I'm really angry and anxious all the time.
Keren was later diagnosed with post-traumatic stress disorder, a condition which forces her to relive the trauma she faced in the army every day. Today, she's driven all the way up to a special farm to try to combat these demons. When you think about visiting a horse ranch, you might expect a trail ride, but not necessarily a therapy session. Well, here in Israel, that's not always the case. Today, I met some Israelis who are blurring the line between rehabilitation and recreation. Meet Dr. Anita Shkedi, the first person in the world to use equine or horse therapy to treat combat veterans with post-traumatic stress disorder. She developed the method here in Israel, turning the Jewish state into a world leader in horse therapy treatment for PTSD.
I lost my son in '93 after the Second Lebanon War, Jonathan. He was mortally wounded. I was in the Sayer at Sankanim, and he went to Sujub to rescue people, and he was blown up there. It's very hard after you lose somebody. After the Shiva, you don't know what to do, whether you should go and lock yourself up or work. I decided that on the 8th day, I should go back to work. And on that day, into the office came a lady with her son who had been in an ambush, and she wanted to bring her son for riding therapy. She said to me, you know, this is my second son that's been injured. And that just did it. I thought, well, Jonathan sent me back to work, and this is going to be the rest of my life.
In Israel, everybody is required to go to the army, whether they're male or female, so it's no surprise that post-traumatic stress disorder is a very common issue here.
I was an officer in combat engineers, and for 6 years the death are chasing me. It was on the roads, it was everywhere. I found myself with hundreds of dead people, with wounded, with mix of a lot of blood.
Well, PTSD first is underdiagnosed. It's really a commonly found medical problem, but I think most physicians aren't really aware of PTSD.
Conventional treatment for PTSD is based largely on pharmaceuticals. Most patients are given a mix of pills to treat issues like anxiety, insomnia, pain, and panic attacks, and each of them have a spectrum of side effects. Oftentimes, the drugs become very addictive and very hard to stop. That's where horse therapy comes in. But why horses? The big creatures are ultimately prey animals, and just like soldiers who've been to war, they rely on their heightened senses for survival. Horses have the ability to react to and mirror the emotions of visitors directly without using any words.
It's really tiring to explain all the time why I can't go up there, why I can't go there, why I can't take my son to kindergarten in the morning. If I was missing a leg or 2 legs, no one would even ask that, they would understand it. Sometimes I feel like an alien, as I feel like an alien here. For me, it's like meeting from the same species. I don't have to talk to them, and I don't have to explain.
It's to have the feeling that you are ruling again your life.
Palestinians are furious that Israel's security cabinet approved the first new settlement in 25 years and are demanding that the international community respond by slapping sanctions against the Jewish state.
This Israeli government announcement about a new settlement in the occupied territories is a grave violation not only of international law but a very big and dangerous step. This action means that Israel is turning its back to international law, turning its back to the Security Council of the United Nations, and turning its back to the so-called efforts about a new peace process. In my opinion, Israel will not be restrained unless boycott, divestment, sanctions is practiced against it.
The Palestinian leader made his remarks during an annual anti-Israel demonstration known as Land Day. The call was echoed by other activists as well.
We are here today to condemn absolutely this. We ask the UN General Secretary to play their role immediately and to go forward for steps to punish Israel because of this building in the West Bank.
The Israeli cabinet unanimously decided to create the new settlement in a West Bank area called Emek Shiloh. Some sources say the new construction is actually going to be within the boundaries of an existing settlement. It's all part of the government's promise to provide new homes for the evacuated residents of the illegal Amona outpost, which was destroyed in February. But France, Germany, the United Kingdom, and Jordan have all issued statements against the Israeli plans because they say the new town will further threaten a two-state solution to the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. The White House also says that unrestrained settlement activity doesn't help advance peace, even though Israel's vowed to curb any other building outside existing Jewish communities. Meanwhile, there are new reports that talks to reach a consensus on Israeli building in the West Bank between Israel and the U.S. have now been suspended. There's no word on whether the United Nations will respond to the Palestinians' call to impose sanctions on Israel for the new settlement. But a spokesman for the world body's Secretary General is expressing unhappiness over Jerusalem's decision.
The Secretary General took notice with disappointment and alarm of the decision by Israel to build a new settlement in the occupied Palestinian territory. The Secretary General has consistently stressed that there's no plan B for Israelis and Palestinians to live together in peace and security. He condemns all unilateral actions that, like the present one, threaten peace and undermine the two-state solution. Settlement activities are illegal under international law and present an obstacle to peace.
That view is consistent with Resolution 2334, which the UN Security Council adopted last December, demanding Israel to immediately halt all settlement building. While many countries favor the Palestinian stance that Israel illegally occupies the West Bank, Israel regards the territory as the Jewish biblical homeland of Judea and Samaria. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu averted a coalition crisis last week by resolving a dispute over the nation's new public broadcasting channel. But employees at that station are furious over the deal, which they say smells like authoritarianism. Workers at the new IBC are protesting the premier's efforts to shut down their news department before it ever even opened. Netanyahu says he's putting the old broadcast authority in charge of the division to save some of the jobs of the 1,000 people there who were set to be fired at the end of the month. That's when the new corporation is slated to open. Hundreds of IBC staffers rallied in Tel Aviv last night where they accuse a premier of attempting to harm freedom of the press. They even compared his government to dictatorships in Iran, North Korea, Russia, and Turkey. The chairman of the new company says the deal tramples Israeli democracy. Opposition lawmakers are also slamming the plan, which they say gives the prime minister unprecedented political control over news broadcasts. The proposed agreement still has to be approved by the Knesset, which may delay transmission by the new station until mid-May. The Hamas terrorist organization in Gaza is opening their end of the Erez crossing with Israel today to allow foreign and Red Cross workers to come through. The crossing had been sealed shut following the assassination of Hamas terrorist Mazen Fakawa, and ILTV's Aaron Porras is back with more on the story. Aaron, what is happening in Gaza?
So after accusing Israel of being behind the assassination, Hamas completely closed down the Erez crossing, which is the only border crossing for foot traffic in and out of Gaza. And they closed it to anyone going in or out, with very few exceptions. It's all to try and find the assassin, of course, which they allege is Israeli. They swear by it. Israel has yet to respond to the allegations. Let's check out the rest of my report.
Let's check it out.
Earlier this week, Hamas reopened the crossing for people entering the Strip, but kept it sealed for those trying to leave. Today, however, according to Gaza Interior Ministry officials, quote, in recognition of the need for humanitarian aid in Gaza, the Ministry of Interior decided to permit foreign workers of the UN and the Red Cross free movement to enter and leave the Gaza Strip, end quote. Until today's border easing, several international aid workers had found themselves stuck in the coastal enclave, and according to the World Health Organization, nearly 80 Gazan patients had also missed their medical appointments in Israel. Over 2/3 of Gazans are dependent on aid, and prior to Hamas's latest decision, over 100 Palestinian NGOs and rights groups had called on the terrorist organization to reopen the Erez crossing.
Israel's proposed Moazzin bill to turn down the volume on mosque loudspeakers has made waves across the country. But instead of taking to the streets, some local Muslims are joining in on a religious singing competition to draw awareness to their cause. Non-Muslims want to turn down mosque loudspeakers so they're not disturbed by the Muslim calls to prayer at dawn, known as muezzins in Arabic. But now one group of 30 young men are singing out their objections as best and as loud as they can. It's all part of a reality TV-style contest called A Muezzin is Born. It's happening in Yaffo, which is an ancient part of Tel Aviv. The participants all want to be named the next great voice at the mosque and say their skills are essential to the Muslim community. The season finale will be broadcast live on where else but Al Jazeera television. The winner with the best set of lungs gets a free trip to Mecca. That's the holiest site of Islam in Saudi Arabia. But one contestant is telling local reporters that none of the competitors are looking to become the next Muslim idol. Instead, they just want to inspire worshipers to pray, and that the real reward will really come in the afterlife. Here on Israel Daily, we often report on new medicine and medical practices, but we don't always talk about how well the new drugs are actually working inside of the body. Well, joining me now in the studio is John Kozarich, the chairman of the board at Intech Pharma, and he's here to tell us more about the all-new and exciting accordion pill. Thank you for coming in, and tell us, what is the accordion pill?
Well, thank you for inviting me here today, Natasha. The accordion pill is something I got very excited about in last summer when I was asked to join the board at Intech. I knew very little about it, but now I actually believe that it has the potential of being a transformative approach to oral drug delivery for very specific drugs that are very important for human health.
Now, interesting. Now, tell us about what pharmacokinetics is and the challenges medical professionals are facing in regards to it.
Okay, pharmacokinetics is really what happens to a drug when you take it, how it changes in your body. Normally, when you take a drug orally, the levels in your blood will go up sometimes quickly, sometimes slowly, and then over time they will decay away. So it's usually up and down. Depending upon how quickly the drug is absorbed and eliminated, that up and down can become almost like a whipsaw. The problem is, for many diseases, you'd really like the oral drug to be delivered in a nice, smooth, even concentration. That's really important for diseases like Parkinson's disease, where when you take an oral drug, carbidopa, levodopa, you get high concentrations, low concentrations, and both high concentrations and low concentrations are really bad for you. The accordion pill is a way to prevent the drug from being absorbed too fast or being eliminated too rapidly. And you have an illustration I can see there.
Absolutely.
And it is a capsule, looks like a regular capsule, but instead of having a drug directly in it, it has a biolayer that's crinkled up like an accordion that has the drug in it. And when it gets in your stomach, the capsule dissolves and the accordion pill is programmed to spring open. And that accordion keeps the drug restricted in your stomach for 8 to 12 hours. Now, that's unheard of for most oral drugs. It's useful because then the drug can be eliminated very specifically and taken up in the upper parts of your GI tract.
So tell us, when and where is this pill going to be available? Is it available now?
Well, right now we are in a phase 3 clinical trial. This is basically a make or break trial for the technology. We have 328 patients in this trial. And what we will demonstrate is that the accordion pill gives one a differentiated advantage for smoothing out the oral administration of the drug to a level where you will always be sitting in the sweet spot of how the drug works and not experiencing the highs and the lows of the drug.
Unbelievable.
So that would be a first for any kind of oral drug. Then the accordion has the potential of being used for other types of drugs as well. So it's really not just a single drug, but it's also an underlying platform.
So thank you so much for coming in.
Well, it's my pleasure. Thank you very much,
And we're
Natasha.
excited to hear what happens next.
Thank you.
Have you decided what you're going to do to take part in International Good Deeds Day today? I hope right after this news program you're inspired by our next report about how 1.5 million Israelis are pitching in to help each other out.
I'll bet you didn't know that the entire initiative is Israeli. Entrepreneur Shali Allison was raised here in the country after being born in the U.S. She launched the project in 2007 with the Ruach Tova, or Good Spirit, nonprofit organization. Last year, millions of people in more than 70 countries participated in Good Deeds Day, contributing an estimated 4 million hours to at least 15,000 projects. That means the effort is the largest and farthest-reaching day of goodness anywhere on the planet. The enterprise has even been awarded a prestigious prize for encouraging individuals to collectively address community needs. Today in Israel, more than a sixth of the population is engaged in helping others. Private citizens, soldiers, students, retirees, and even company workers can be seen delivering food baskets to the impoverished or volunteering their time in other worthwhile ways. If you need some help coming up with an idea, dozens of suggestions are listed on the Good Deeds Day website. In fact, as soon as I finish here, I'm going to go check it out myself. Happy Good Deeds Day, everybody!
All right, the lead star of the popular HBO TV series and film Entourage is on the screen this week for a totally different venture. Adrian Grenier is starring in an Israeli commercial, and it's hilarious. Most people know the 40-year-old entertainer as the character Vincent Chase from Entourage, not as the face of the Israeli gift card company Buy Me. But even though he is not Jewish, he still clipped on a yarmulke head covering to act in their latest commercial. He even nailed the ch sound in the Hebrew word for Passover, which is Pesach. Just listen.
Hello, everyone. Happy Pesach. I'm Adrian Grenier, the most charming actor I know. So charming that I've been able to give away crappy gifts.
Wow.
And still get a...
So thoughtful.
I know. Sometimes I think this smile can get away with anything. Enjoy this toilet golf, Nana. Happy birthday, Grandpa. A souvenir from the gas station. A towel swan. It's a sweater mouse pad. A ring if you're king mug. A rock replica. It's an ashtray. It's an edible yo-yo.
That's incredible.
You see? But you, my friend, are no Adrian Grenier. You're not even close. So, for this Pesach, simply go to Buy Me, COIL, and give your friends and family a gift they actually love.
For those of you who don't know, Passover is a time for giving gifts to those you love. Grenier came all the way to Israel to shoot the commercial and even took the time out from filming to visit the Western Wall in Jerusalem and post a photo on Instagram. He's not the first foreign actor to star in an Israeli Buy Me commercial. Last year, his Entourage co-star Jeremy Piven did a similar ad campaign, and let's just say he nailed it.
How did you know? Look at this. It's a fish-shaped bowl. I was just thinking I needed a fish-shaped something to put all my stuff in. It was like you read my mind. Come here. You nailed it. Give me a hug. I love you. I was acting. What is this bullshit? It's so useless that I can't even re-gift it because I don't hate anyone enough to give it to. I would rather be scraped with a rusty menorah.
The Hebrew word of the day is brought to you by the University of Haifa, Hebrew Summer Ulpan. Open to everyone.
And now for our Hebrew word of the day. It may not be a surprise to all you equestrians out there, but as we've recently uncovered, it turns out that horses can be very soothing creatures. So today's word is sus, meaning horse. Susim, or horses, have played a major role in Israel since biblical times and have been used in economics, agriculture, warfare, and more. Today, Israelis still haven't given up on that tradition. In fact, it's still fairly common to see sus-mounted police officers in Tel Aviv and Jerusalem. And there are still plenty of places throughout the Jewish state where you can go susback riding. Of course, one of the most important things to remember about the word sus is that while susim don't usually have a problem with swimming, don't get them confused with a sus yo, or horse of the Nile, because that's actually just a hippo. All right, let's go ahead and take a look at the weather forecast. Tonight should be partly cloudy with a chance of rain and a low of 55 or 13 degrees Celsius. Tomorrow you can expect it to be partly cloudy with a rise in temperatures and a high of 70 or 21 degrees Celsius. All right, that's it for today's news. Today's exchange rate is 3.63 shekels to the American dollar. Remember to sign up for our daily newsletter at ILTV.tv. Thanks for watching and see you next time.